My sister-in-law accused me of stealing grandmother's diamond ring, but pawn shop security footage told a different story. Okay, Reddit, deep breaths. I need some perspective here because my world got turned upside down by my sister-in-law, and I am still reeling, even though things have mostly settled now. I am Chloe, I am 29 years old, and my husband, Mark, is 32. We have been together since our early 20s, married for 5 years now, and honestly, things were pretty great between us. We have a nice little life, decent jobs, good friends. The only consistent snag: Mark's family, specifically his sister Jenna, who is 30. His parents, Brenda and George, who are in their early 60s, are generally okay people, though Brenda definitely has a favorite, and spoiler alert, it is not Mark. It is Jenna, the golden child. George is usually quieter, more observant, the type to stay out of the direct line of fire, but you can tell he sees everything. Jenna, where do I even start? From the moment Mark introduced me, years ago, I felt this undercurrent of competition from her. Little digs disguised as jokes, constant comparisons, a general air of believing she was somehow superior. Mark always saw it, thankfully. He would roll his eyes privately or gently call her out, but mostly we just tried to keep the peace for the sake of family harmony. Jenna has always been a bit materialistic and, frankly, quite irresponsible with money. She lives beyond her means, always chasing the next shiny thing, and there have been rumors whispered about credit card debt and borrowing money from their parents frequently, though Brenda always downplayed it. Mark suspected it was worse than their parents let on. So, the main event. This happened last fall, around late October 2023. It was Brenda's birthday, and she was hosting a dinner party at their house. It was supposed to be a nice, intimate family affair, just us, Jenna, and Brenda and George. Brenda has this beautiful antique vanity table in her bedroom where she keeps her nicer jewelry in a carved wooden box. Inside that box was the asterisk ring. It was Mark and Jenna's grandmother's engagement ring. A stunning, vintage piece with a sizable center diamond and intricate platinum setting. It was not just valuable monetarily, it was the family heirloom. Brenda inherited it, and the understanding was always that it would eventually go to Jenna, as the only daughter. Brenda often wore it for special occasions, but tonight, she mentioned wanting to wear it but decided against it last minute, leaving it in the box upstairs. The evening started normally enough. We arrived, gave Brenda her gift, and settled in the living room for drinks before dinner. Jenna was there, acting her usual self, a bit overly effusive with compliments towards her mom, while giving me the polite but cool treatment. I remember making small talk, asking about her job, which she seemed vague about. Dinner was pleasant. George told some of his classic stories. Brenda seemed happy. I excused myself at one point to use the restroom, which is located upstairs, down the hall from Brenda and George's bedroom. I went, did my business, washed my hands, and came straight back downstairs. I did not go near their bedroom, did not even glance in that direction, honestly. About an hour after dinner, while we were having dessert and coffee in the living room, Brenda suddenly gasped. She had gone upstairs for something, maybe her reading glasses. I do not remember exactly why. She came rushing down the stairs, her face pale. She stammered out that the jewelry box on her vanity was slightly ajar, which she never leaves it that way, and the grandmother's ring was gone. Gone. Instantly, there was chaos. Brenda was near tears, George looked grim, Mark was shocked. And Jenna? Oh, Jenna went into overdrive immediately. Her eyes landed squarely on me. Before anyone else could really process it, she started talking, her voice rising with faux concern that quickly turned accusatory. She said something like, "Oh my God, Chloe, you were the only one who went upstairs after dinner, weren't you? I saw you admiring Mom's ring earlier, you kept staring at it. Did you?" I was stunned, absolutely speechless for a second, me. Steal the ring? I started denying it immediately, my voice shaking a little because I was so blindsided. I explained I only went to the bathroom and came right back down. Mark jumped to my defense instantly, telling Jenna that was a ridiculous accusation and to stop talking nonsense. But Jenna doubled down. She brought up some perceived slight from months ago, twisted something I had said about liking vintage jewelry, painted me as envious of her future inheritance. She started crying, saying how much the ring meant to her. How could someone do this, looking pointedly at me the whole time? The worst part? Brenda looked conflicted. You could see her wanting to believe her precious Jenna, her eyes darting between me and her daughter. George just stood there, watching intently, his expression unreadable. Brenda asked me, gently but definitely suspiciously. Chloe, are you absolutely sure you did not go into the bedroom? Maybe just to look. I felt my stomach drop. My own mother-in-law was doubting me based on Jenna's immediate, baseless accusation. Mark got furious then. He told his mom he was incredibly disappointed she would even entertain Jenna's garbage. He stated firmly that I would never do such a thing, and that Jenna was way out of line. The atmosphere was thick with tension. I felt sick, humiliated, and so angry. I looked Jenna dead in the eye and said, very clearly, Jenna, I did not take the ring, and I find it incredibly convenient that you were so quick to blame me. The evening ended abruptly after that. Mark and I left, the missing ring hanging heavy in the air. Brenda was still distraught, George looked troubled, and Jenna had retreated into silent, tearful victim mode. The car ride home was mostly silent. Mark just held my hand tightly, occasionally muttering about how awful Jenna was. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Being accused of theft by family, it was beyond hurtful. Back home, Mark was pacing, furious on my behalf. He swore he knew I did not do it, that Jenna was projecting or something. We talked for hours. I cried, vented, got angry all over again. How could Jenna do that? And why? Just pure spite, jealousy, or something else? That is when Mark brought up Jenna's money problems again. He mentioned she had seemed stressed lately, avoiding calls, making excuses not to meet up when money might be involved. Could she be that desperate? Desperate enough to steal from her own mother and blame me? The thought was sickening, but it started to make a horrible kind of sense. Jenna knew the ring was valuable. Jenna knew she was the intended recipient, maybe felt entitled. Jenna desperately needed cash. Jenna disliked me intensely. The pieces clicked together in a truly ugly way. I could not just let this go. Being falsely accused of stealing a family heirloom was not something I could just shrug off. My reputation within the family, my relationship with my in-laws, it was all damaged. I told Mark I needed to clear my name definitively. He agreed wholeheartedly. He felt guilty too, somehow responsible for his sister's behavior. So we started thinking, if Jenna took it, what would she do with it? Selling it privately seemed risky. It was a distinctive piece. A pawn shop felt more likely for quick cash, especially if she was desperate. Mark remembered Jenna complaining about some unexpected car repairs a couple of weeks prior. Maybe that pushed her over the edge financially. We decided to do some digging, quietly. The next day, Saturday, Mark and I started calling pawn shops in the city and surrounding suburbs. It felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. We described the ring in detail: vintage platinum band, approximate carat size, the unique setting. Most places said they had not seen anything like it, or took our details with vague promises to call if it turned up. It was disheartening. We spent the whole weekend doing this, expanding our search radius, checking online marketplaces too. Nothing. Meanwhile, the family situation was icy. Brenda called Mark, sounding upset but still not outright accusing me, more like confused and wanting answers. She mentioned they had not filed a police report yet, wanting to keep it in the family, which honestly just made me feel like they were still suspicious of me. Jenna apparently was playing the distraught victim, calling her mom constantly, crying about the lost heirloom. Mark told his mom firmly again that Jenna's accusations were baseless and deeply hurtful, and that we were looking into finding the ring ourselves. By Monday, I was feeling pretty low. Maybe Jenna had been smarter than we thought. Maybe she sold it to a private collector, or maybe, just maybe, I was wrong, and it really was just lost or misplaced somehow. But my gut screamed that Jenna was involved. That evening, Mark had an idea. He remembered Jenna mentioning needing to go to a specific area across town for an appointment the day after the disastrous birthday dinner. It had struck him as odd at the time because it was out of her way. He wondered if maybe she had gone to a pawn shop further afield, thinking it would be less traceable. We pulled up a map and looked at pawn shops in that specific area. There were 3. Tuesday was my day off, so I decided to take a drive. Mark had work, but he encouraged me to go, telling me to be careful. I felt like some kind of amateur detective, heart pounding. The first shop, nothing. The second shop owner was curt and unhelpful. My hopes dwindled. I almost did not go into the third one. It looked a bit run down, tucked away in a less busy street. But I figured I had come this far. I went in, described the ring to the guy behind the counter. He looked thoughtful for a second, then his eyes widened slightly. He said, "Yeah, I think something like that came in a few days ago. Hold on." He disappeared into the back. My heart leaped into my throat. Was this it? He came back a minute later holding a small plastic bag. Inside was the ring, Grandma's ring. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, so intense I almost cried. I asked him who brought it in. He was hesitant at first, citing privacy policies, but I explained the situation, that it was a stolen family heirloom. I showed him pictures of the ring from Brenda's social media, pictures of me and Mark with the family. I did not mention Jenna by name yet. Seeing my genuine distress and maybe recognizing the ring from the pictures, he softened. He confirmed a woman matching Jenna's description had pawned it last Friday morning, the day after the party. He even had security footage. He needed official confirmation or a police report to release the ring, but he agreed to hold it and showed me a still image from the security camera timestamped Friday morning. Clear as day, it was Jenna, standing at the counter handing over the ring. She looked stressed, glancing around nervously. I thanked the pawn shop owner profusely, took down all his details, and practically floated out of the shop. I had proof, concrete proof. I immediately called Mark, voice trembling with excitement and relief. I told him everything. He was ecstatic, relieved, but also deeply saddened and angry at his sister. He said he would leave work immediately and meet me. We decided the best course of action was to go straight to Brenda and George. No more phone calls, no more whispers. We needed to lay it all out with the evidence. We drove to their house. Mark called them on the way to say we were coming over and had urgent news about the ring. When we arrived, Brenda and George met us at the door, their faces etched with anxiety. Jenna was not there, thankfully. We sat down in the living room, the same room where I had been accused just days before. I took a deep breath, and with Mark sitting beside me holding my hand, I told them everything. About our suspicions regarding Jenna's finances, our search, and the discovery at the pawn shop across town. I showed them the picture from the security footage on my phone. Brenda stared at the picture, her hand flying to her mouth. Her face crumpled. George looked at the image, then at Brenda, then back at the image, his expression hardening. There was no denying it. It was Jenna. Brenda started sobbing, not the distraught tears from before, but deep, heartbroken sobs. She kept whispering why. Why would she do this, and why blame Chloe? George put an arm around her, but his eyes were fixed on me and Mark. He looked ashamed and angry. George spoke first, his voice low and firm. Chloe, I am so deeply sorry. Brenda and I, we should never have doubted you for a second. We let Jenna's accusations cloud our judgment, and that was wrong. Please forgive us. Brenda echoed his apology through her tears, saying how horrified she was by Jenna's actions and how terribly she felt for suspecting me. Mark told them we appreciated the apology, but the focus now needed to be on retrieving the ring and dealing with Jenna. George agreed immediately. He said he would handle getting the ring back from the pawn shop the next day, involving the police if necessary to document the situation, though he hoped to handle the repayment directly with the shop to avoid formal charges against Jenna, if possible, for Brenda's sake. But he made it clear Jenna would be paying back every single cent, and there would be serious consequences. We left their house feeling vindicated, but also sad. Sad for Mark, who had to confront this ugly truth about his sister. Sad for Brenda and George, whose trust had been shattered, but mostly relieved that my name was cleared. The nightmare was ending. Mark and I felt closer than ever, having weathered this storm together. Jenna was confronted by her parents later that week. From what Mark heard, it was explosive. She denied it at first, then broke down and confessed everything when faced with the pawn shop evidence. She admitted to having huge gambling debts and saw pawning the ring as a quick fix, planning to get it back before Brenda noticed. When Brenda discovered it missing sooner than expected, Jenna panicked and threw me under the bus, fueled by her long-standing jealousy. The consequences were significant. George paid the pawn shop to retrieve the ring immediately. He then set up a strict repayment plan for Jenna, garnishing a portion of her wages. She apparently confessed she was about to lose her job too, adding to her desperation. She is also required to attend therapy and Gamblers Anonymous meetings. Brenda and George told her they needed space and were deeply disappointed. She is basically persona non grata for the foreseeable future. Brenda has been trying incredibly hard to make amends with me. Lots of apologetic phone calls, sending flowers, insisting we come over for dinner, just us and them. George has been quieter but conveys his respect and apology through his actions and supportive words to Mark. Our relationship with them is healing, slowly but surely. Mark and I have established firm boundaries regarding Jenna. We will not be participating in any family events where she is present for the time being, and we will not entertain any discussions that try to excuse her behavior. So Reddit, that is the saga. It was awful, truly. But we got through it, my name is cleared, and the truth came out. It just sucks that it had to happen this way. I guess my question is, were we right to handle it this way, going straight to the parents with the proof? And how do we navigate future family stuff, assuming Jenna ever gets back in their good graces? I am bracing myself for the comments, but I really need your perspective. Was I too harsh in wanting her completely exposed? Update 1. Wow, okay. First off, thank you all so much for the overwhelming support and validation on my original post. I honestly did not expect it to get this much attention. Reading your comments really helped solidify that we did the right thing, and that my feelings of anger and hurt were completely justified. A lot of you shared similar stories about difficult family members, and while it is sad that so many people go through this, it was comforting to know I am not alone. And yes, to everyone who called Jenna a conniving asshole, I wholeheartedly agree. So, a few things have happened since I first wrote this, about 2 months ago now. George did indeed retrieve the ring from the pawn shop the very next day. He had to file a police report to facilitate the process smoothly, mostly for the pawn shop's records, but he requested they do not press charges against Jenna, framing it as a family matter they were handling internally. The pawn shop owner was very cooperative, especially after George paid back the money Jenna received plus any fees. Brenda now keeps the ring locked away in a safe deposit box at the bank, which is probably for the best. She told me she cannot even look at it right now without feeling sick about what Jenna did. Brenda has continued to be incredibly apologetic towards me. It is almost uncomfortable sometimes, but I know it comes from a place of genuine remorse. We have had dinner with her and George a couple of times, just the four of us, and it has been okay. Strained at first, but getting better. George mostly talks about neutral topics, but he made a point of telling me privately how much he respects the way I handled everything and that he sees my strength. That meant a lot. Brenda keeps emphasizing that Jenna's actions were solely her own, and that she raised her better than that, which feels a bit like she is trying to distance herself from the enablement that probably contributed to Jenna's behavior over the years. But Mark and I are letting it slide for now. Baby steps. As for Jenna, well, the consequences have been real. She did end up losing her job shortly after the confrontation, apparently due to performance issues likely linked to her stress and debt problems. George and Brenda helped her find a new, less glamorous job, and as I mentioned, they are garnishing her wages for repayment. She had to move into a much smaller, cheaper apartment. She's attending therapy and GA meetings, according to Brenda, but Mark and I are skeptical about how seriously she is taking it. We have heard through Brenda that Jenna is apparently very remorseful and ashamed, but she has made zero effort to contact either me or Mark directly to apologize. Honestly, I prefer it that way. I'm not ready to hear it, and frankly, I do not think I could trust any apology from her anyway. Mark has been amazing through all of this. He is sad about the state of his relationship with his sister, but his priority has been me and our marriage. He has been rock solid in enforcing boundaries with his parents, making it clear that we need space from Jenna and will not be rug sweeping what happened. He shut down Brenda's one attempt to suggest we should all try to talk things through for the holidays, telling her firmly that it was way too soon, and maybe never. I am so grateful for his unwavering support. Many of you advised therapy, both for me individually and potentially for Mark too, given the family dynamics. I've actually started seeing a therapist to process the betrayal and the accusation, and it has been really helpful in managing the lingering anger and anxiety. Mark is considering it too. We are focusing on us, strengthening our bond, and making sure our home remains our sanctuary away from the family drama. Thanks again for all the advice, Reddit. It really helped navigate the immediate aftermath. Update 2. Hello again, Reddit. It has been quite a while since my last update, probably around 6 months now, so I figured I would share how things have progressed, especially since so many people asked for a final chapter to this saga. First off, thanks again for the continued support and messages. Reading them back then truly felt like having thousands of supportive friends in my corner. Life for Mark and me has actually been remarkably peaceful lately. The distance we put between ourselves and the Jenna drama has done wonders. We stuck to our guns about boundaries, and it seems like Brenda and George have finally accepted that we will not be rushed into any kind of reconciliation with Jenna. The holidays came and went. We spent Christmas Day with my family and had a separate, quiet dinner with Brenda and George a few days later. Jenna spent the holidays with some distant relatives, according to Brenda. It was honestly the most relaxing holiday season we have had in years. Our relationship with Brenda and George has found a new normal. It is not quite the same as before the ring incident. There is still a layer of caution, perhaps, but it is stable and respectful. Brenda has stopped with the excessive apologies and seems to understand that actions speak louder than words. She focuses on being a supportive mother-in-law in quieter ways, respecting our space and decisions. George remains his steady, observant self, and his relationship with Mark seems stronger, built on a new level of mutual respect after George firmly handled the situation with Jenna. Now, about Jenna. From what we hear sporadically through Brenda, we try not to ask. But sometimes she offers updates. Jenna is still working the job her parents helped her find and is supposedly still making payments towards the debt she owes them for retrieving the ring. Brenda claims Jenna is still in therapy and attending meetings, and that she talks a lot about remorse and wanting to rebuild trust. However, Jenna still has not reached out to me or Mark directly. No apology, no acknowledgement, nothing. Part of me is relieved, as I truly have no interest in engaging with her. Another part of me thinks it just proves her remorse is more about her own situation than genuine regret for hurting others. Mark feels the same way. He basically considers his relationship with her to be non-existent at this point. He says maybe years down the line things could change, but for now, he is done. Interestingly, Brenda mentioned a few weeks ago that Jenna had apparently asked if she could maybe get the ring back someday, if she proves she has changed. Brenda told us she shut that down immediately, telling Jenna the ring would remain in the bank vault indefinitely, and its future was no longer a topic for discussion. I was glad to hear Brenda held that boundary. The ring has become symbolic of the whole ugly mess, and honestly, I do not think Jenna should ever inherit it after what she did. Whether Brenda and George agree long-term remains to be seen, but for now, it is safe. Mark and I have been focusing on positive things. We took a wonderful vacation earlier this year, just the two of us, to decompress fully. We are also talking about starting our own family soon, something that feels possible now that the dark cloud of the Jenna drama has lifted. We feel stronger as a couple, having navigated such a stressful and potentially destructive situation together. My therapist helped me work through the feelings of betrayal and anger, and while I will never forget what happened, it does not consume my thoughts anymore. So, that is pretty much it. My name was cleared, the truth came out, and the person responsible faced consequences. Mark and I are happy and moving forward with our lives, prioritizing our peace and well-being. The relationship with the in-laws is functional and improving slowly. Jenna is out of our lives, and frankly, it is better that way. It was a horrible experience, but ultimately it led to us cutting out a toxic element and strengthening our own partnership. We came out the other side, and things are genuinely good now. No real life lessons here, just the conclusion of a very messy chapter. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.